Well, there are multiple that I need to talk about, but I think the first one I want to talk about is somebody who I actually just wrote about over on my Patreon, and that's PJ Washington. And I think this is a way where you have to think of it more in terms of like, um, you can look at what his numbers are right now, and obviously like raw scoring and everything's up, usage is up. Um, Efficiency has not been there. I think that's one thing. Like, yes, you have to note that and be cognizant of it, but more importantly, the coaching staff has actually put a modicum of trust in him to do things, and that speaks kind of volumes to me. Considering like there's a guy who went like I was so interested in PJ when he first blew up his rookie year. What I think didn't he hit like 7 threes, and I think his first NBA game, and everybody was like, whoa, what
Yeah.
is this? What is happening? Because he didn't really take a lot of threes in Kentucky. And like he's just a guy who I've always like I feel people have always kind of been like waiting on like, well, is when is PJ gonna break out? And last year, like quietly, like I still think PJ had a nice year, but he got extremely pushed down the totem pole in what they were doing last year. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but more importantly, like that's changed this year. And
Yeah.
I would say it's less about it's looked good and more it's looked encouraging. Like the idea that he could carry some more usage, that he can do more with the ball in his hands. I think his handle is tightened up a little bit more. He's getting actual opportunities to run secondary pick and rolls, to run more DHOs. They love running like Terry Rozier off of a ghost screen and letting PJ make a decision to either drive, shoot, or pass. And he's a
Yeah.
good decision maker. He's a good passer. And I think now we're seeing his drives are up twice what they were last year. Um, he's still a below the rim finisher for the most part, which is always going to be a thing for him, but he has kind of decent touch on floaters, which I think is something he's experimenting with and finding more of. He can get into his strength based game a little bit, which I think as the handle comes along a little bit more, that's stuff you want to see from him. But overall, like the game against the Cavs that they had was, I thought, one of the best games I've seen from him as an offensive player in the NBA in terms of what his full utility can be. He attacked closeouts, he hit big shots. He was really good just continuing to move the flow of the offense. And to me, that's what I see with him. Like, it's not that he has to be a star, but I think there's just more to him than just being a screen and roll guy. Like, I think there's more where he can really put the ball on the floor and make things happen. Even if it's not always going to be super efficient scoring off drives, he's a really good passer for his size. So I've been very encouraged by him and what he's starting to show and just getting the opportunity to do, even though Charlotte has been kind of a mess. Like, it's worth noting LaMelo has played 3 games. So I think you do give like a little bit of leeway to what the efficiency has been for everybody. But I've really enjoyed the PJ Washington experience this year.
Yeah. So I think that this is a prime example of how stats don't always tell the story with a breakout. Because if
Yeah.
you look at PJ Washington's numbers, the counting stats are up, right? Like he's averaging 16 points a game.
Mm-hmm.
The assist numbers are down. The rebounding numbers are down. He's shooting 10% worse from 2-point range, which is surely a function of, well, I'll explain what it's a function of in a second here. And then the 3-point numbers are down. He's shooting 32% as opposed to 37%. But Mark's right. He is tasked with so much more in terms of creating off the bounce, in terms of being able to run specific actions as opposed to like being the secondary cog in some of these actions or being the floor spacer in some of these actions. I'm going to pull up his synergy profile in a second here, but like I would imagine that so many more of his shots are contested this year because he's just being asked to do totally different things in such a real way that you can't really go by the numbers when you're asking a young player to expand his repertoire in the way that PJ Washington is being asked to expand his repertoire, largely due to circumstance, right? Like, I'm still a pretty firm believer that PJ Washington's best role is going to be as like a sixth man on a great team, not just like a good team, but on like a genuine title contender, a guy that can come in, slide down, play the 5, give you some switchability, can play the 4 next to a big man, can give you all sorts of lineup versatility, can allow you to play freedom, a very free offensive system while also playing a switchable defensive unit or playing a more normal defensive unit. That's kind of like the benefit of what PJ Washington can do. But this year, where he's being tasked with more and being asked to expand the studio space, in a way that, like, someone like Mikal Bridges has just organically done over the course of like a 3-year period, whereas PJ is just getting it this year. I think these are invaluable reps for him as he develops into being a decision maker, or a guy that's going to have to make quick decisions in the playoffs for a good team at some point, be it in Charlotte or be it somewhere else, because he's a restricted free agent this summer.
Yeah, no, I think you bring up a lot of great points. Like a lot, like he's a good shooter. I think a lot's going to depend on, like one of the biggest drops in his efficiency right now is he has shot catch and shoot threes at like the worst rate of his career, and I expect that to change. Like, and I think part of that is LaMelo being out. Just considering like you're probably getting worse looks if you don't have LaMelo passing you open. He's shooting before last game. He was shooting below 31% on catch and shoot threes, and he's never shot worse than 38% on catch and shoot threes in his career per NBA stats. He actually shot pretty well on pull-ups last year, and I think I'm interested to see, what he can do with that. Just by virtue of running pick and rolls, like he's going to have those opportunities. I think I'm more interested to see how does he grow as a movement shooter, because I think that's kind of the next stage for him, in my opinion. Finding more ability to do things off of, maybe he's able to shoot coming off screens more instead of just doing some of the stuff lifting and being stationary. But regardless, like you mentioned, I think even with the assist numbers being down, like this is the most encouraged I've been by him as a passer off live dribble. So yeah, I think it's just fun to like kind of compare and look at guys who are, you can very quantitatively see the leap, and other ways it's harder to see as well.
So here's a trivia question for you, Mark.
Ooh, I like trivia.
How many pull-up jumpers do you think PJ Washington has taken this year in 18 games that they've played so far?
So I know through 17 games he'd taken 32. It's got to be what, like 34, 35 now?
So the Synergy has it at 44 in terms of dribble jumpers. How many do you think he took in 65 games last season?
I think it was right around 30.
Yeah, 39. He has taken 5 more pull-up jumpers this season in 18 games than he did all of last season. And that was after his game expanded a little bit last season, even more so than what it was previously. So he's getting to do a lot more. The shot quality here is much, much, much more difficult than it has been previously for PJ Washington. So that's why you see the numbers in terms of efficiency tanking. He's just being asked to do way more. And I hope that people recognize that. Like, we now have a sample of him on ostensibly like an okay team last year with a 59% true shooting percentage where he could knock down shots and could play his role. We're also getting a chance this year to see him do different things, explore the game a little bit more. And yeah, his efficiency has gone down. It's 53% true shooting percentage, but it's all like, it's for good reasons, I guess, is what I would say.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to put it. He's like, not to keep going, but he's like the kind of guy that I think I just continue to be most fascinated by, like the guys who are combo forwardy. Like he, to me, obviously, again, not the same prospect, but like same idea of like, he's like a combo forward version of Paul Millsap to me. Like the same idea of like kind of able to do a lot of different things. What thing will iron out? And I really do believe in the shot. Like I think he has pretty fantastic touch, and it's like, if the pull-up jumper becomes viable, that completely changes his trajectory for me. So that's why it's so interesting to watch what happens this season.